Hello YouTube, this is Alan from Community Satire. This is actually just going to be a tier list for the Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer. I've been playing a lot recently and I figured I would try to make a tier list. I actually plan on making some guides too, depending on the feedback I get from this. Something I do want to make note of first off is that this isn't a tier list for like the advanced player or anything like that. This is mainly for viability and also for the fact of there's going to be characters in this game that you can play and have fun with and actually do pretty well with. But you can play another character, or you will be able to play another character that actually will have less effort to play them and have pretty much the same effect. That's kind of why the Angara Insurgent's in the front. Instead of having like Solarian Operator, they're both supports. Solarian Operator is ultra rare, Angara Insurgent is a rare. But yet the Angara Insurgent actually has more overall effect of the game, considering the trip mines have a higher burst. Oh god. So I'm getting on into the tier list. I'm gonna go and start off with explaining the why each character's in each tier. I'm not gonna do an in-depth guide on each one yet. I'm gonna start off with the Solarian Infiltrator. Solarian Infiltrator actually has the highest gun damage in the game currently, sitting at, I believe it's about 120% base damage, considering you can get 90% from the tactical cloak. Oh wait, sorry, 128%. Because it's 38% from the passive and 90% from the tactical cloak, which is 128. The human infiltrator is slightly lower, with only having 12% left, or no, 20% left, excuse me. Well, they're basically the same class, except for two small features and also the durability of the class. But the main reason they're in S tier is because of the ease of access to devices, to hacks, and to the uploads, where they can basically just spam invisibility the entire round. The Angara and Ranger is kind of the same boat in the aspect of he has stealth grid, to where he can cloak the entire team. Now, something I do want to mention now is why I did not put the Asari Huntress higher, even though she has the same exact ability with the stealth grid, is because the Angara Avenger has much more kill potential than the Huntress, whereas the Huntress is more of an ability-based character, which ability-based characters aren't really that powerful in this current meta. Now, the reason why I have the Asari Duelist in the S tier is because of the fact that when you're using the melee, when you're actually going into the momentum of actually swinging the blade and giving it to the enemy, that blink there is actually an invincibility frame where you cannot be hit. And you can actually take down Hydras, Fiends, Ascendants this way. Ascendants, you would actually need to break the orb first, or else that would not work out too well. But moving on to the Human Vanguard. The Human Vanguard obviously is a fan favorite right now. Everybody's using the kind of melee builds. And Human Vanguard is actually, I would say, a bit more reliable than the Krogan Vanguard right now because of the fact of it's able to spam shield regeneration, whereas the Krogan Vanguard is more reliant on the charge, fortify, and the sometimes having to dip in and out of cover with the health regeneration in the AS. The Turian Soldier, I'm going to go off on the fact of its fortify plus turbocharge, puts it at a really good position for gun damage on top of having good damage resistance. Next up is the Human Kineticist. Even though abilities aren't really that great in this game at the moment, the Human Kineticist can still spam abilities and whatnot, which actually makes it pretty viable for most games, even up to gold, whatnot right now, which soon we should have platinum, and even in platinum I believe the Human Kineticist shouldn't really change too much in the position in a tier list. Next up is the Krogan Gladiator. The Krogan Gladiator is up here because it's not in a... The Krogan Gladiator is actually in A tier because of the fact that she is a powerhouse. In terms of melee, the Annihilation ability is actually really good for durability. But at the same time, she can also be squishy because if she's not getting kills, she doesn't really have a reliable way to regenerate health. Even with rage going on, it doesn't really reliably fix your health issue. Next up is the Human Soldier. Human Soldier is kind of like it's your standard soldier character. Basically, you have the turbocharge, concussive shot, and the frag grenades. The reason why it's in the B tier is because of the fact that the Turian soldier can pretty much outperform it as a soldier class. And this tier list is again trying to go for which class is going to be the easiest to use. And I feel like right now the Turian is the best soldier class we have in game. Next up is the Human Engineer. Human Engineer I consider B tier, even though, yes, it has the cryo trap and all that. It actually has a pretty high debuff rate, or debuff capacity of 135% against armor types, combining technical or tech elemental damage and also the cryo beam, which is 100% plus the 35%. It's because of the fact of the assault turret is pretty useless right now, and not having a good ability in any slot can kind of screw a character over. Yes, the Engar Insurgent has a assault turret, but the fact of the shield boost giving a 80% damage swing pretty much helps that out on that one. And also actually able to do a lot more damage with the trip mines versus the, let's see, Overload doesn't really do too much damage, even though it is mainly for killing shields. There's actually a video posted on YouTube. I don't know the exact user name off the top of my head right now, but he did it on bronze, silver, and gold. And on gold, it didn't even do half the shield at max power damage, which is kind of sad. Next up is the Human Adept. The reason why the Human Adept is in B, not higher, is because of the fact that abilities aren't really as powerful right now. Yes, the Human Adept can spam abilities, but the fact of the matter being that the Singularity has such a high cooldown, it doesn't really help its case. Next up is the Asari Adept. I know a lot of people actually like the Asari Adept and want to, or would rather have it higher. I don't really see it having high enough ability right now because of the fact, again, abilities aren't really that great in the game right now. Although it is still a viable character and next up we have the Krogan Mercenary. Krogan Mercenary is actually a pretty decent character. It's a pretty fun character to play around as. I've actually seen a lot of people running him either. You pretty much have a couple options. You have the run around, use him as a power class because of flamethrower and flat cannon. Also with Fortify being able to stun people whenever you use the explosion on it. It's kind of fun, but he isn't really good enough as a tank compared to the Krogan Vanguard, and the Krogan Engineer should be able to outdamage him theoretically in DPS via the combos. Next up we have the Asari Huntress. Let's see. Next, I've already went over that, never mind. Solarian Operator would be next. Solarian Operator, the Invasion is a really good ability. Evasion actually gives a 25 to 10% or 25 to 30% DPS increase via the defense debuff, which I actually would rather go with the Epidemic for the longer duration and the spread radius. That's just me personally, so it actually end up only being 25%. But at the end of the day, you're getting a lot more enemies infected and whatnot. I feel like this character is amazing with a team. I don't really feel like this character really works out by himself as much because of the fact that if you aren't able to stay around your teammates and do shield boosts, then you're able to actually coordinate your invasion well enough. Even though, yes, it does spread like crazy, I don't feel like you'd be using as much of your... I wouldn't feel like it would be as useful as like the Engar Insurgent for support. Next up, we have the Turian Havoc Trooper in C tier. Something I want to reiterate on again is that this tier list is for what can I do to have the most effect on the game using the least amount of effort. Turian Havoc Trooper is actually a very good character, but the problem with the Turian Havoc Trooper is that they're going to have to be floating around the map, and that isn't always viable on all maps. On top of the fact of the main thing with the Turian Havoc Trooper is the turbocharge again. And that's kind of like the only thing even holding it up, really. Next we have the Human Sentinel. Human Sentinel is okay. It's an okay class. It actually has the highest base gun damage in the game with 28%. But considering that it's an ability-based character and also does not have any other boost besides a 15% boost in barricade, it isn't really worth it to go gun damage on that kind of character. And the tech armor doesn't really give enough damage resistance to actually be worth it, compared to actually having more health and more shields. Next up, we have the Solarian Architect. Personally, I think this character was a good idea. It was more of a kind of a fun character in my opinion. It looks cool. It has a Remnant VI. It kind of looks like a Special Ops version. The only problem with it is though the Remnant VI is too weak currently. Barricade is still kind of like a not a very good ability in my opinion. And that's kind of why it's lackluster for this character. Yes, you can use the Cryo Gauntlet and use that to freeze people and then use Incinerate to combo off of them, but that doesn't really make him a good character. And last on the list is the Asari Sentinel. The main reason I'm going against this character is the fact of you don't really do... It's supposed to be a character that's basically all around, and you don't really do good all around. Especially considering again that abilities aren't that great. And even the damage resistance from the tech armor is actually lower than the human sentinel itself. All in all, I don't think that my tier list is perfect at all. I think there may be some flaws here and there. Honestly, if I made a flaw and you feel like I placed the character wrong, tell me in the comments below. I am open to criticism. I am open to suggestion on that one because, again, I don't think I'm perfect. I don't think I'm a... Well, I would say I'm a decent player. I've only got 6,000 Apex rating. But the main thing I want to say again though at the end of this is play the game to have fun. This is kind of my opinion on what characters should be, or not should be played, but are the highest of being able to be played. Also, since it is around Easter, there is actually an Easter egg inside the text. I know there isn't much to go through, but there is actually a small Easter egg in the text. And one last thing is just have a nice day.